Merry Christmas and welcome to another edition of Florida Sportsman's Action Spotter Podcast. I'm Captain Rick Riles. Hey, we're going to have a lot of fun on this holiday week. We're going to take a trip around the state and get the latest from the best fishermen in Florida. We've got 12 of them positioned around the state to help us track where the fish are. But also, we've got some interesting conservation issues coming up, and I want some input from some of the guys that really know the fisheries from the inside out. So sit back, get yourself a cool drink, and let's talk a little fishing. Now, we're going to start out with a quick trip over to my favorite place on the world to billfish. That's Nosara Paradise in Costa Rica, and check in with our buddy Craig Sutton. From there, we'll go to Northeast Florida and work our way around the state out the Panhandle. The Florida Sportsman Action Spotter Podcast is brought to you each and every week by Yamaha. Reliability starts here. By Tournament Master Chum, the best chum on earth. By Nosara Paradise Fishing, your dream vacation. And by Young Boats. You want the finest in flats bay and offshore hybrid boats? You need to check out youngboats.com. We're going to start off our little jaunt this evening with a quick plane ride out to Nosara, Costa Rica, my favorite billfish destination I've ever been to, and check in with our buddy with Nosara Paradise Fishing, Captain Craig Sutton. Craig, are you with us?
Yes, sir, Captain Ricky. Right here, buddy.
I don't think they're wearing hooded sweatshirts like I am in Costa Rica tonight.
Heck no, buddy. It is beautiful down there. Absolutely beautiful. And we had a good marlin weekend. We had 3 releases on Saturday and 1 on Sunday, buddy.
Excellent. Excellent.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
How about sailfish?
Plenty of those.
Good
Plenty
deal.
of those.
Good
I
deal.
mean, it's one of these situations where the fishing's so good right now. It's hard to say what species is going to hit the hook, but there's I tell you, we got some big dolphin too. Girl Stephanie from Jacksonville here got a really nice dolphin, plus sailfish too, and that tuna Saturday was, along with those marlin, was it's got to be 120 pounds.
Big one. Yeah, it's good fish.
Yeah, I mean, if it's not 100 and 120, it's close to it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Very, very good fish. Very good.
Yeah, but the blue water's moving out though. Blue water started moving out early last week, and it's about 20. I think they said today it's 24 miles out, but it's a real good edge. So once they get out there, most of the boats that, if it's captain owner where he pays the gas bill itself, they're not going that far out. But our guys, they don't care. They don't pay that gas bill. I do, but
not their problem. That's the boss man's problem.
Yeah, they're going out there, and boy, it's happening, man.
Yeah,
it is happening.
Fantastic. That is just fantastic.
It's good to see. It's really good to see.
Now, Craigie, what's going on with your Cubera fishing? I know you've tried to change it to all release. How is that working out?
Well, I got to tell you, it's affected it a little bit. I mean, our guys have kind of gotten to think that they don't want to have to tell the person they got to release that fish. And I've told them the people don't mind, but the conditions haven't gotten there yet. And we caught a couple rooster, but we're just not getting much demand for it. Mm-hmm. I think it will. I think that'll pick up later on in the year, though.
Yep. That's fantastic. Hey, Craig, I got a question for you.
Okay.
Last week we were joined by Ray Rocher, who probably knows as much about dolphin and wahoo off the east coast of Florida as anybody does.
Absolutely.
Ray was quick to remind me there's 1,000 people a day moving to Florida. A lot of them are coming for our fishery. The fishing, the ability of our fishermen gets better every day. I mean, it's crazy. You buy a Seymour map and an iPilot trolling motor now, and you're a hero. Okay, if we know we have to cut back on our harvest of dolphin and wahoo, would you rather see us go to 5 dolphin per person, okay, with a max of, 30 per boat if you've got 6 people on the boat, 5 dolphin per person and 1 wahoo per person? Or would you rather leave it like it is and deal with a 3-month closed season?
I don't like the closed season, period.
Yep. I knew that was coming. Yep.
I don't have it, and I took the old Ricky Riles limit on dolphin years ago. 10 for my boat, that's plenty.
Yep.
And I'm going to stop and let the rest of them go. But That's me personally, but I think the 5 per person limit on the mahi would be a good idea.
Sure.
I don't know what the right amount of the wahoo would be, but 1 per person on your boat, maybe 5 max. I don't know, but the high speeders guys are really pulling a lot of big wahoo out of our fishery. A lot of good wahoo.
They have, Craig, and I have no idea how many there are, and I have no idea how much trouble we're in, if any trouble at all. Here's a thought that somebody brought up to me the other day, and it makes perfect sense. All right, when you and I went to the ledge as kids, it was ridiculous, okay? I mean, you know as well as I do that we rigged baits as mates just as fast as we could rig to get them back out, and the boxes we brought home were just unbelievable. But you know what? We were one of 2 boats there.
Mm-hmm.
Or one of 3 or 4 boats there on a Saturday or Sunday. Now, I don't know.
They're everywhere.
I know.
Ricky, yesterday the place was crawling with boats.
How many boats do you think you saw?
Probably 25.
Okay.
Maybe 30.
And you covered a what? 5-mile area?
No, it was longer than that. I started at 3016 line and ended up at 29.5 line. So
okay. You covered a lot of miles then, so it wasn't as thick there. You and I've been there in May before, where you couldn't hardly find a place to put over. It was so full of boats.
Yeah,
but
that's true.
And I kind of wonder, are we maybe seeing kind of the same fishing as it's always been, only it's spread out among 150 boats? I don't think so, Craig. I think we genuinely are having an impact, and I think we need to look at species in terms of tighter management.
Well, I'm kind of getting to adopt that, Ricky. I mean, my catches, I track them per trip, and then I total them per year. My last 3 years has been on a huge decline. I mean, massive decline. Mm-hmm. And I have not seen the big wahoo, and haven't gotten the really big wahoo strikes like we used to. So I don't know. I mean, it's you may be right on that. Maybe it's a lot of pressure, a lot of people pulling a lot of fish out of it. But I mean, I was hoping this winter was going to be better than last, but I don't know, man.
Well,
I got to get a mahi over 21 pounds to break the last 2 years. So.
Gee, that's poor. Yeah, that's
and
poor
that's
fishing.
crazy.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
That is poor fishing.
Last year I think total we only had I think it was 48 total mahi in all of last year. I fished 19 times. That's not a lot. The year before we had 120.
Yeah, we've had a lot of drop off in size and in numbers. And Craigie, the one thing I don't think anybody can deny, and God love the high speeders, they're having a ball, they're good for business, they're catching fish, everything's fine. But they have certainly impacted how many wahoo us bait fishermen catch, haven't they?
I mean, I don't know. All I know is my biggest day so far this winter's been 2.
that's not real
and
big.
I can remember
10
years ago or 11 years ago this week, I fished twice. I left them biting with 7 wahoo one day, left them biting at 5 the next time.
Yep.
And there were some big ones in there too. So,
I know it. So
I long for those days now.
But I'm with you, and my whole theory is we have to keep the fishery sustainable, and we have to keep fishing.
Yeah.
All right, both those things are important. If we have, I'm so crazy, Craig. I mean, everybody laughs at me. I'll run to the 18 bottom for my 7 sea bass. I will, Craigie. I just want to go fishing. Okay, just don't tell me I can't go at all. I mean,
exactly. Me too. Yeah, don't tell me I can't go.
Yeah, I don't want to see a closed season. All right, buddy. Yeah. Well, that sounds excellent. How are your bookings? Your bookings starting to get squared away with Nosara?
We're picking up pace. It's like every week gets a little better. Today was a pretty good day. Last week was a good week, even with Christmas mixed into the formula. And we're doing a lot of bookings down there, and but we're still tracking about 40% of what we normally would do. Yeah. But 40% is better than no percent.
Well, that's funny you say that, because They said yesterday, which, by the way, I was on an airplane yesterday, and they said it was the heaviest air travel day in a year, and it was 50% of what it was a year ago that day. So I think you're right on track, and I think you're going to certainly by August, September of this year, you're going to be back to 100%.
I think so, because we've got a big end of May, 1st of June, now July, and August. By the way, you need to get your dates to me quick.
You pick the week. We'll make it work. I want you to be there.
Okay. Well, okay. I'll let you know probably tomorrow then. But yeah, we're starting to book up August, so I hope so. I need a couple of those, 130, 150 fishing trips 130, 140 fishing trips in a month to kind of get me over the hump. I got a lot of maintenance this year.
I understand. Thank you, Craigie. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. We'll look forward to talking with you next week, if that's okay.
Okay, muchacho.
All right, buddy. Thanks. Bye-bye. Our thanks to Craig Sutton for a great report from Paradise. My goodness, the marlin are biting over there. Them and the sailfish about to take the place over. Now let's start in Florida. We'll go up in the northeast quarter and check with our buddy, Captain David Voorhees. David, how are you?
Hey, Captain Ricky, how you doing, buddy?
Doing fine. What's going on inshore in Jacksonville?
Burr, it's been cold. Let me tell you, the water temperature has dropped. But you know what? The fish are still biting. We've been fishing these creeks. I've been fishing back in these creeks looking for these holes, and it's real funny. I usually will find usually these creeks up here in Northeast Florida, they'll usually have one big hole and two smaller holes, or sometimes they'll have three. Most of them have an average of three good deep holes. And what I mean by deep is, 10 foot or better. And this particular creek, it has three nice holes, and I usually just hop from one hole right on down to the next hole. And, usually I'll find the fish in one or the other, But in the way, if you don't have a depth finder and you're wondering where these holes are, they're always going to be at the bend in the creek. Usually the first, the second, and the third bend is where you're going to find those deep holes.
Stop right there a minute. The bends are the deep holes are going to be in the bends of the creeks, right?
Yes, and the outer part of the bend is where you want to fish.
Aha. Okay. Now, why is that? Is that the current? Is that where the current washes out as it makes that bend?
I don't know, Rick. I guess that's got to be it. But that's usually when you'll find the first two bends of a creek is going to have your deep holes. Sometimes you might have to go into the second one or the third one to find which one's the deepest. And I always like to start at the deepest and work my way back.
I see. Well, that's excellent. That's great information, David. What have you been finding in the holes?
Oh, they're just stacked up with reds. But today we caught an unusual number of flounder and some nice flounder too. And I tell you, these flounders, you know how flounder like to camouflage themselves.
Sure.
These suckers they've been on that black mud, and they are just a chocolate brown, some of these flounders. And, we had some 16, 17-inch flounder today that I was really surprised. I didn't think we were going to get a couple of 16-inch trout. But the reds at that low tide are just stacked up, Rick. We've been catching over 30 reds a day. And they're it's a mixed bag. You might catch a bunch of little 16 inchers, 15, 16 inchers. But if you keep working it, sooner or later, boom, you're going to catch a big one. And like today and yesterday, every now and then, you're going to pull one oversized out of there. So
now
all
Dave,
the fish sort of.
David,
go ahead.
I'm sorry. It sounds interesting to me. I have to give you these questions when I think of them, or my old brain will forget them. The one thing we usually understand about real big trout is that if there are little bitty trout around, if you're catching 8 and 10 inchers and 12 inches, you're not going to find a 30-incher sprinkled in there. But you're saying that's not the case with reds. Am I reading you right on that?
Not this time of year. That's not the case. And a lot of people will go into these holes and they'll start catching these little rat reds and say, all right, let's get out of here. That's all that's in here is rat reds. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to stay in there because I've bought tons of shrimp because this time of year, man, you need lots of bait. And I just start picking my way through those little ones. And like today, sure enough, you know, after about our 7th or 8th little rat red, the next one was, you know, 24, 25-inch red. And, you know, then we'd go back to catching some small ones, and then a big one would show up. So, yeah, they are mixed in there. But you got to remember, we're on this full moon, and these tides in the wintertime are extremely low. I mean, you better make sure the creek you're going into you can get out of, because these tides are getting so low that I've seen a lot of the mouth of these creeks dry up.
You're going to be late for work if you go in there on a falling tide, huh? Yep.
But the thing is we've caught fish now today and yesterday on that very last of the outgoing. We've got a real small window here. We're doing our best bite just before it goes slack and just when that tide turns and starts coming back in again.
Gotcha. Excellent. Hey, David, I got a question for you.
Okay, go ahead.
This came up last week. We were joined by Ray Rocher from down in the Keys, and he has been working on the Mahi Wahoo committee for the South Atlantic Council. Was real quick to remind me that 1,000 people a day move to Florida, and an awful lot of them move here for our fishery. And he feels like we are going to have to reduce the harvest. Right now, the harvest is 10 mahi per person, 60 per boat, and I believe 2 wahoo, 10 per boat. Would you rather, if you have these two choices, and we'll put it to you with redfish and trout, would you rather see the limits cut in half, or would you rather see a 4-month closed season where we didn't fish for them at all?
Well, that's pretty easy for me. I would much rather just see the limit adjusted than a closed season. For me, you know, like today, for example, I had one gentleman fishing with me, and Rick, we did your one. I said, how much you want? How much can you eat? What do you want to eat tonight? Well, you know, let's do one redfish and we'll call it we let everything else go. And you know, I would much rather go out and keep one redfish so these people can take something home and eat them than have to say, no, we got to let this guy go. The season's closed. Oh,
I think I can foresee if the season is closed, they don't let us fish at all. That's what worries me. I'm thinking that they're thinking no lines in the water during closed season.
That would be a nightmare.
Yep, I agree.
That would be a charter captain's nightmare.
Right. I agree. You'd have to find something else to do. I just wanted your feelings on it. I feel the same way. To me, the goal is to keep the fishery sustainable and keep everybody fishing every day. And that's what you have to balance. Yep. And I think it can be done.
We talked about this on the radio show this weekend, and the key word is manage. We're not properly managing our fish, Rick. You know, and that's the key to it. You have to manage it.
Mm-hmm.
It's snapper are not being managed.
No,
that's not a management.
No, you're right.
Fish, they're not being managed. That's not a management. That's not a fish management. So where we're missing the boat is we're not managing these fish. We're just coming up with these laws that they don't know how to take off the book.
Yep. Once, what Ronald Reagan said, the closest thing to eternal life is a government program. Isn't that the truth?
That is the truth.
It is, my friend. David, as always, we appreciate it so much. I would love to give you a glowing offshore report, but man, offshore has been tough. Almost everybody I talked to struggled over the weekend offshore. Now, here's the sole exception. The sea bass have moved in. They are within 25, 28 miles of the beach, and they seem to be pretty plentiful and good-sized fish. So I'm really hoping, and it follows to say that when we have cold winters, we have better sea bass fishing. And so far, this, as you know, has been the coldest December we've seen in a long time.
It is, absolutely.
Yep. All right, buddy. We appreciate it. Look, I look forward to talking with you next week, if that's all right with you.
Absolutely, Rick. Tight lines, everybody.
Thank you, David. Our thanks to David Voorhees for a great Northeast Florida report. David's report and all of our action spotters are brought to you each and every week by Yamaha. Reliability starts here. By Tournament Master Chum, the best chum on earth. By Nosara Paradise Fishing, your dream vacation. And by Young Boats. You want the finest in flats, bay, and offshore hybrid boats? You need to check out youngboats.com. Now we're going to take a little trip down to the East Central area and talk with our buddy Jim Ross.
You know what Yamaha Outboards love? The genuine formula and consistency of Yamalu marine engine oils. Outboards are subjected to punishing conditions like high loads, salt, and humidity, a mix that automotive oils can't handle. Yamalu full synthetic and marine performance formulas are certified to protect against friction and corrosion for reliable performance every time. Find Yamalu marine oils at your nearest Yamaha Outboard dealer. Locate them at yamahaaoutboards.com/dealers. Yamaha, reliability starts here.
Hey, Raj, being consistent is the mark of a quality product. If you've been Florida's #1 chum for over 10 years, there's got to be a reason.
For 10 years, Tournament Master Chum has lived up to his name. That's why more tournament pros insist on Tournament Master than any other chum. It's the only chum with Menhaden milk mixed right in. That means it gets the scent out faster and deeper than any other brand of chum. It comes in a grind size for every species from kingfish to catching bait. Your fishing time is way too precious to use second-rate chum. Bring the action to you by insisting on Tournament Master Chum. It's worth every penny.
When you're ready for the finest in custom-made flat spay or inshore-offshore hybrids, you are ready to meet the Young family in Inglis, Florida. For over 21 years, the Young family has built custom boats one at a time for every type of fishing. Nothing can sneak up on a flat quite like the Gulf Shore flats boats, and I've never fished a better hybrid than the Young 24s and 27s. Rob Young is a naval architect who takes tremendous pride in each and every build for each and every customer that wants their boat custom built exactly the way they want it. Is it time for you to move up? Are you ready to own the finest boat built? Then you need to visit the Young Boat facility in Inglis, Florida, or check them out online at youngboats.com. Our thanks to Captain David Voorhees for a great Northeast Florida report. Now we're going to head down south and check in with our buddy Captain Jim Ross. Jimmy, how are you?
I'm doing good, Rick. How are you today?
Good. How's the back feeling?
Better.
Good.
It was better, and except that I had some issues with the boat. Whenever you're booked up solid with charters because it's Christmas week, the hubs decide to blow out, and the trolling motor decides to quit working. And, so we're fighting gremlins.
Yep.
But it is what it is. So
yep.
We'll get through it. We just gotta get it done.
This
has been picking up just a little bit the last couple days.
Good. I had to go to an orthopedist myself last week, and you know what he told me, Jim? He said,
"What's that?" He
said, "Your neck looks just like you've been running small boats in big oceans for 50 years." I said, "Oh, imagine that."
Imagine that, huh?
Yep. Gee, I wonder why my neck looks all screwed up. I can't figure that out. I used to believe if you were so short you only had 5 vertebrae, you couldn't screw them up. But I'm learning that's not really true.
Yeah, that's the truth.
Yeah. Give me a fishing report, Bubba. What's going on in East Central Florida?
Well, we've got this little bit of warming trend that started, and because of that, we've got some different things that are happening. I talked with Captain Richard Bradley today. He's been fishing in some of the canal systems, deeper canals in the Intracoastal Waterway main channel as well in the Indian River. And in that area that we had the fish kills a couple of weeks ago, there are some fish that are starting to show back up in there. Small trout, small dink redfish, but in those residential canals in Merritt Island, he's finding some fish. So that's good news. Also, we've got some family in town, and they're staying out at the beach side, at Cocoa Beach, and my cousin Danny has been throwing little saltwater assassin paddle tails in the surf, and he's found a pretty good little snook spot out there at Cocoa Beach. He hooked 5 yesterday and landed 4. He hooked 8 today and landed 3.
How about that?
They were bigger fish today. Yeah, right in the surf, throwing just a little 3-inch, assassin paddle tail. So pretty cool stuff going on there. he's also reported that there's guys up and down the beach that are, sand spike fishing. They're getting some small whiting. They're getting some black drum. They're getting some sheephead as well in the Cocoa Beach area. Of course, we haven't had anybody go offshore. Did talk with Captain Glenn Austin again this morning, and Glenn said that the redfish and snook down at the inlet weren't as good as they had been the night before, but he did get some fish on that remaining portion of the incoming tide just after daybreak on pinfish. And so he's had 2 redfish in the 40-inch range and 1 snook that was about 36 inches on that incoming tide doing that drift with the live pin.
Now, Jimmy, it's gotten so cold. Is it unusual for you to still have snook in this kind of water, Tim?
Well, down at Sebastian, the incoming tide is still about 67, 68 degrees. As soon as the tide switches and starts going out, the river water's down in the 50s now, so they just shut off.
Mm-hmm.
So when they're feeding, it's an incoming tide scenario. And the last 2 days, you've had that moon setting right as the end of that tide was happening. So you kind of had that minor going on with the moon, and then you still had some warmer ocean incoming water. So I think that's what's causing it.
I see. Excellent. That sounds like an absolutely great report, Jim. Now, you haven't heard anything from offshore. You guys still should have some sailfish this time of year, shouldn't you?
There should be sales. I did get a report from 2 days ago. Captain Eric Meyer was out on 8A and said that he did get a couple of king mackerel, but not anything huge. Just little fish right now.
Gotcha.
So it's and he said he got pretty beat up, getting out there and getting back. So it wasn't a whole lot of fun.
Yeah, it's been plenty rough. There's no getting around that. Cap, we appreciate it ever so much. Please take care of your back, and how about you let Justin change those hubs and fix that trolling motor? Make that boy do some work, will you?
Yeah, we're gonna be on it tomorrow. That's for sure. And you take care of that neck.
I will do it indeed. Thank you, Jimmy. Take care, and we'll see you next year.
Sounds great, Rick. I appreciate it. Take care, buddy.
Our thanks to Jim Ross for a great East Central report. Glad to hear him feeling at least a little bit better. Let's head on down southeast to my favorite fishing village in Florida, Stuart, Florida, the sailfish capital. Well, it used to be of the world. Now it's kind of the sailfish capital of Florida. And check in with our buddy Captain John Earhart from the Chaos and the Mayhem. John, how are you? Merry Christmas.
Merry belated Christmas, and glad to be here.
We're mighty glad to have you. Has the sailfish bite commenced?
Well, today it was pretty slow. I was out there fishing today. I didn't catch any sailfish. I heard a couple were caught. Most of those fish were caught right out in front of the St. Lucie Inlet in about 120 to 140 feet of water. Guys were catching, singles and doubles, but it was very sporadic. There wasn't a whole lot of condition. But yesterday it sounded like a lot of guys were catching 5, even 10 fish a piece. So, it was really good yesterday. It was kind of slow today. It might just be because there wasn't much of a condition and the bait was down a little bit deeper in the water column. Sounded like yesterday there was a lot of flying fish up on the surface. There's a lot of activity. The sailfish were a lot closer to the surface, so that's why we were getting a lot more bites yesterday compared to today.
John,
I think after we get... Go ahead.
You know what they call that?
Fishing?
Yeah, that's it. That's exactly it. You don't know. I had a friend of mine one time that wanted me to take him to the Gulf Stream, which up here is 60 miles plus. And he said, but look, I don't want to go out there if you're looking for fish or experimenting or you don't know what's going to happen. I want to go when you know it's going to be good. John, I never did have to take him fishing. Never.
Yeah.
Have you ever known it was going to be good?
Some days I have a good feeling, but I've never went out there 100% knowing that it's going to be that good of a day.
No, me neither. What else is going on?
We've been catching quite a few mahi off and on. When a condition forms up out there, there's been a lot of good mahi fishing. Guys are catching 10 to 15 fish a trip. We just got to have a good condition out there in like 100 to 200 feet of water. So if you see a weed line anywhere from 100 to 250, you can bet it's game on right now for mahi. It's been a lot of bonitas mixed in, a lot of kingfish, a few cobias, some sharks, and some amberjacks. Inshore fishing's been pretty steady this week for sheepshead, black drum, few triple tail here and there, and the snook fishing continues to be pretty steady using live bait fish. It's all catch and release right now since the season's closed, but plenty of action nonetheless. If you're going to fish around the docks or at the bridges, you can expect to catch quite a few snooks, some jacks, even a Goliath grouper here and there.
John, let me ask you a question. When you're offshore and your primary target is sailfish and you're pulling ballyhoo and you come across a weed line, do you think sailfish relate to weed lines similar to mahi, or do you think a weed line has no effect on them?
It does have an effect, but if I was only targeting sailfish, I typically stay like 100 to 200 yards off of a weed line, unless I see bait fish jumping out of the water on the weed line.
Right.
I typically will stay out away from the weed line because it seems like those sailfish are kind of wary. They'll stay out away from a condition. So if you're out there trolling, you'll see a lot of experienced guys. They're not trolling right up on the weed line because they just don't want to deal with the mahi if they're only targeting sailfish. Mm-hmm. So, with that being said, I tend to fish a little bit away from a condition or a weed line when I'm targeting sailfish. I tend to zigzag, offshore of it quite a ways, then back kind of in towards it, sometimes across it onto the other side. And you'll find like a sweet spot where you'll be marking bait fish, and then you'll start marking individual sailfish, and then that's a good area where you want to be traveling north and south.
That makes perfect sense. Cap. Well, that sounds like an outstanding report. Has the snook fishing improved since the season closed? Do they know it's closed, or has it just been good right on through?
It's just been good right on through, to be honest. It doesn't seem to have any effect on them. Those things they're biting. If you got live baits, you can bet your butt you're going to be catching some snook right now.
All right, let me ask you one more question, and I'll make this brief, but we had Ray Rocher as our guest last week, and he's as knowledgeable about mahi and wahoo as anybody in Florida. He says that with 1,000 people moving to Florida per day, which is what it is, and all the new fishermen and all the new technology, that we have to be extra vigilant about taking care of our mahi and wahoo stocks. No doubt about that. Would you rather see the limit go from 10 per person to 5 per person with a max of, say, 30 a boat? Or would you rather see them close to harvest for a 3 to 4 month period out of the year?
I would rather have a lower bag limit and be able to target them year round, just because, I can count on a hand over the course of a year where I'm going to limit out on mahi in my region. I would think maybe down in the Keys that closing it part of the year would help tremendously, but I wouldn't mind, reducing the bag limit and keeping the season year round. Just because of my business, we need to be able to keep mahi year round.
It's unanimous. Then we all agree. We've all agreed so far. And I'll say right along, the goals have to be sustaining the fishery, making sure there's enough fish for us, and keeping everybody fishing. And that's the challenge.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we have to do. And if it means we bring home 5 mahi a day, then we bring home 5 mahi a day. But I don't want to see the ocean closed to the sport that I love so much. No. This isn't hunting. I don't want to see it like where we can only fish 3 months out of the year.
I couldn't agree with you more.
Yep. All right, Cap, we appreciate it. Let me know we can talk with you next week after New Year's, okay?
Yep, let's talk sailfish next week.
I'll be ready for it. Thank you, Captain John. Captain John Earhart from Chaos and Mayhem Charters in Stuart, Florida. Now we're going to journey on down further south and check in with the mayor of Miami, Captain Alan Sherman.
Rick, we're doing fine. We're a little chilly down here. Maybe not as much as you guys are up there, but for us Southerners, it's kind of chilly down here.
Cap, it's cold up here now. We haven't frozen at my house just because I live on the river so close to the ocean, but everywhere else in Jacksonville is frozen.
Yeah, it's pretty cold up and down the state, and the fishing is kind of reflecting off of that. We've got some good fishing. We haven't had great fishing. I heard you just mentioning some sailfish. We haven't really seen a lot of sailfish in the area yet, but that still may come shortly. They are catching a few just outside the reef, on the ocean side. But the hot fishing that we've had recently, and it's been going on for weeks now, is the daytime bottom fishing. We've had very light currents, which has allowed the guys to fish some of the wrecks anywhere from 100 feet on out to 300 feet of water, and to do it easily. So because of that, they're able to target as many wrecks as they want in a day. And eventually they bump into one that's loaded with either yellow-eyed snappers or vermilion snappers or some really nice mutton snappers, fish, in the 6 to 10 or 12 pound range. And then while they're catching them, there's been some big gag, black and red groupers caught as well. So that's been our best fishing, the wreck fishing. The guys are sitting on these wrecks, taking turns, and they're getting some big amberjacks as well, quite a few 30 to 50 pounders, and almaco jacks. There's been a couple of covias caught, not a lot of covias, but there's a few around. And then, while they're fishing the bottom baits, they're also fishing for kingfish and blackfin tunas, which have been biting. And then, while they're doing that, one of the top baits gets hit by a sailfish. Mm-hmm. So there's plenty of action out there. It's just there's not loads of sailfish yet. The party boats have been doing really well on the bottom fish, and then the charter boats, they power fish them and are getting them as well. They're fishing live ballyhoo, live pinfish, strips of squid, whole squid, Spanish sardines, threadfin herring. Anything fresh or live is getting the bites. And as long as that current stays down, it'll make it a lot easier for these guys to target these fish, and it should go on for a while. Coming in a little closer, there's been Spanish mackerel in some areas like the dredge holes, 30 to 60 feet of water, the Spanish mackerel, not in every hole. But if you find the right one, you get some chum in the water, whether it be, frozen chum or live bait fish. The mackerel have been coming to the boats, and the fishing's been pretty good there too.
Alan, it seems,
ocean. Go ahead.
It seems to me like Spanish mackerel, since we closed the nets a long time ago and put realistic limits on them, seems to me like they've kind of steadily ticked upward ever since then. Do you agree with that? Do you think we're in good shape on Spanish?
I'm sorry, I don't agree.
Okay.
They may be in great numbers some places, but in South Florida for the last couple of years, they really have not shown up in the numbers that we saw maybe 5 years ago.
Interesting.
Or 10 years ago. And it may have something to do with the lack of shrimp. We've lost a lot of the natural seagrasses in the bay, which the shrimp need. And when you lose them, you, I think, lose the shrimp as well. So the mackerel, they feed heavily on, the bay shrimp. And if you don't have them, they're going to move on and try and find them somewhere else. The guys out of the Keys going into Florida Bay are doing extremely well on the Spanish mackerel, and they've been catching them now for a couple of months. And that fishery will probably last right into early or late March. But in the bay, which is where I fish, I'm usually having no trouble catching mackerel. And we're catching them, but we're not getting many. And the ones that we're catching are really small. So it's not a typical year here for the Spanish mackerel. Now, you go up the coast, at the Pex Lake, and you talk to a guy up there, and they may say they've never seen more mackerel. I'm not sure if that's how it is this year or not, but we're not seeing them here in big numbers, no.
I see. Well, that's very interesting because up in Jacksonville, Stewart, and just about everywhere that I end up fishing, it seems like it's been very good for a number of years now, and maybe not so much for the giant schools of small migrating fish that we used to see, but my gosh, we're catching an awful lot of the big Spanish while we're kingfish fishing, many more than we're used to. So I think you probably hit the nail on the head. I think down there, so much of your whole fishery depends on that seagrass, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. It really does. And we don't see many sea trout in the bay anymore. You really have to work hard to catch them. But if you took 100 acres of what was once seagrass, there's less than an acre left. spread out across the bay. People tell me, oh, but I see all these dark areas out there. That it's got to be healthy grass, but it's dead grass,
right?
And it's an algae that's growing on the bottom. It's not your natural manatee grass,
right?
So you don't get the same stuff growing in it and hiding in it. So it's difficult. It's hard for me to accept because I grew up down here.
Is there a plan to restore it? Can it come back?
Yes. They're working feverishly on it now. They had some big fish kills here this past summer, which opened the eyes of a lot of people finally. And they've got some things in plan. But one of the biggest problems they say, and I kind of agree, is our septic tanks. We have too many working septic tanks that are leaking into the aquifer, and all that gets into the bay, and it joins everything else that's in the bay. All that water coming out of the canal systems from Lake Okeechobee with the phosphorus, and when they combine, it really messes up the water here. So, they've come up with a bunch of plans. Nothing's happened yet.
Well, I'd love to see us build a wall at the Georgia border, but that's another story altogether. All right, Captain Allen. As always, we appreciate the heck out of it, and I look forward to talking with you next week. Our thanks to Captain Alan Sherman for a great South Florida report. Interesting take on the seagrass from him and the troubles they're having with that, but sounds like their bottom fishing in particular is doing very, very well. Now, let's travel down to Islamorada. You can't go to a place in Florida any better than that and check in with the captain of the Broad-Minded, one Nick Stancic. Nick, are you with us?
I'm here, Rick.
Oh, buddy, it's good to hear from you. How was your Christmas?
It was good. We survived.
With a month-old at home, it's survival mode, isn't it?
No doubt. Yeah.
But you did get away for a couple days fishing, I hear. Tell me about it.
We fished yesterday, and that was as good a swordfish bite as I've ever seen. We did 8 drifts and had 8 bites.
Whoa!
We caught 4 of them. We caught a big hammerhead, and we tagged and released 2 of the swords. And the last one we caught was a big one. It took 3 hours, but he weighed in at 381 pounds. And
how about that?
With a pumpkin to boot, so that was good. We went back today, and I was hoping it'd be like yesterday, but that fishing every day is different. Up to 1 p.m. today, it was rough. It was 4 to 6 footers, but some of these squalls coming through. It'd be a few 7 footers rolling through, blowing 30 knots. But in the afternoon, we did catch 2 today. Not big swords. We kept one for dinner, keeper, and let one go the same size, and caught a few small dolphins. So we still had a decent afternoon, but it wasn't as active in the first half of the day like it was the day before.
I told this story earlier, but up here in Jacksonville, Nick, we run 60 miles to get to the shelf, and I had a buddy of mine say to me one time, he was an inshore fisherman, he says, I want to go to the ledge with you someday. And I said, all right, we can set that up. And he said, but listen, I don't want to go when, you think they might be there, or maybe there's some fish there. I want to go when it's going to be good. Nick, I never had to take that guy.
Yep.
I mean, you never know what it's going to be like tomorrow.
Yep, no doubt. You should tell him, should have been here yesterday.
Yep. As soon as I know it's going to be good, I'll call you again. That's not going to happen for a while, I'm afraid.
Yeah, and I got a good snook report. Captain Dave Peck, he fished in the Everglades today, and his customers walked up and they said they caught 70 snook today. They caught and released, so that was. They said it was action almost every cast, and they were from Georgia. They were thrilled, so it was good to hear.
That's great. What size are those fish, Nick, down there?
A lot of our snooks are smaller, the 18 to 26-inch range, but there's a few big ones in the mix. There has been some 30 to 40-inch snook this year, which when we start seeing snook that are 35, 36 inches plus, those are huge for us. And we have seen a few of those, but most of them are juveniles, but still fun on the light tackle, obviously.
You're not kidding. That's an outstanding inshore trip. Are the guys able to get live shrimp down there, or what are they fishing with?
The shrimp's been a little tough because the boats haven't been fishing as much, but they did have shrimp today, but I know a few days ago they did not. So some of our fishers, when they can't get the shrimp, but they had it today and it paid off.
Oh, excellent. That's great. That sounds like a very good time for a wintertime vacation to Islamorada. You'll warm up and you'll catch fish too. Captain Nick Stancic, we appreciate it so much. Go take care of that baby girl. Give your wife a break.
All right, we'll see you later, Rick.
Thanks, Nick. Our thanks to Nick Stanczyk, chewing on a piece of swordfish while he's talking to us. I don't know about that. We better swing on over to the 10,000 Islands and see what Captain Steve Dahl is up to. Steve, are you with us?
I am. How you doing today, Rick?
Never better, Cap. Never better. Almost got another year in the books. I've been here a long time now. You know that, right?
Yeah. How long are we talking? Give me a number.
This will be New Year's Eve number 67.
God bless you. That's great. That's awesome.
2 weeks away from 68. That ain't bad.
There you go. There you go, birthday boy. I like it.
Listen to me now. Listen to me now. Dick Van Dyke is touring on Broadway. Dancing.
Okay.
Dancing.
Yep.
You hear me, right?
Yeah.
91.
Oh, wow.
Isn't that something?
That is.
You know what he said the secret is?
What is it?
Don't stop. he said
well, that's you to a T. I know you pretty good at this point, and you are go, go, go.
That chair is not your friend. Don't you stay in it too long. Let's talk a little fishing. What's going on in 10,000 Islands?
A whole heck of a lot, actually. It's been pretty darn good. I mean, we're kind of making adjustments now that we're in our winter, pattern, if you will. And with that comes winter tides. And, we get 2 tide cycles a day, and our lowest of the 2 tide cycles is in the daytime hours, pretty much from now till March. And so you got to be a little cautious navigating, but, and adjust. Those fish aren't, as pent up against cover as much as they normally are. Probably 9 months of the year. These next 3 months with these low tides during the day, you're going to find fish off structure a little bit more. And I shouldn't even say off structure. I should say off primary structure. So what we're used to is fishing mangrove islands. The in and around points and bars. Oyster bars, things of that avail. And what you want to look for is stuff that's a little bit off of that, if you will. So, start casting, definitely, farther out is the best, way I can describe it. So fish are still in the same general areas that they normally inhabit, most of the year. It's just, I think people make a little too much of a mistake getting too shallow too quick and kind of fishing history. And, this time of year, you really got to back off a little bit, be a little bit more stealthy and take your time. And if you're more of if I'm fishing by myself, I'm more of a run and gun type of guy. I amazingly don't have the patience to wait out stuff. So I just want to cast. I throw a lot of artificials when I'm fishing by myself, even on charters if I have the right folks on board. But I'm all about cover and water, and, this time of year you can do that really good. And, you just have to keep your distance off of that stuff because the water's a lot more shallow than normal. So, on the flip side, some of the fish are definitely going to be relating to, look at some of the places you're fishing in the backcountry that you normally would up against the mangroves and things like that, and find the deepest hole relative to those areas. And our area is peppered with, passes and, that act like, basically arteries and rivers for our ecosystem. But even small little pass-throughs between islands and all of that is kind of current driven and has, washouts and deeper depressions. And when I'm talking deeper, in our area, you find 20 feet of water. That can be measured in fathoms.
Mm-hmm.
So, we're looking for stuff that's really subtle little breaks, things of that avail. And, you're going to find, redfish, snook, and trout all stacked up in those smaller holes, and they can be tiny, but you can literally make a morning of, several of these little deeper, depressions off of primary structures. So keep that in mind. Be mindful of where you normally like to fish in our area, and then pull out a chart, do a little bit of digging, and figure out where those deeper areas are. And I guarantee you those fish are going to be sitting in those deeper areas. They just don't have anywhere else to go. So That's kind of just a general rule of what's going on. And as such, the trout fishing's been fantastic. The red fishing's been really good. Snook's a little bit slow. Our water temperatures have been hovering in the low 60s right now due to that big cold front that we've had. I looked like the kid from Christmas Story the other morning. I was so cold. I was so bundled up. I had more clothes on than I think I've ever put on a fishing trip. But fish are still biting, and so that's kind of the backcountry, which is doing really good. The offshore and nearshore bites still doing really good. And that's kind of my preference in the wintertime. I really like doing that nearshore style of trip because you can kind of put everything in the mix. And as we're sitting this week on the full moon this morning, we did a bang up job on really nice, keeper mangrove snapper up to 19 inches. I'm talking
it's good fish.
2.5, 3 miles. Yeah, 2.5 to 3 miles from shore. And in our area, I'm talking 25, 30 feet of water.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, these fish are very accessible. They're, anyone can do this in any just about any type of boat. You get the right day. You could even do this in a skiff. I wouldn't recommend it, but it's possible. So if you have a bay boat or any type of deeper V boat, you can get out to these nearshore wrecks and reefs and just clean up on these big mangrove snapper that we've had. And I don't know if there's a couple other captains that are kind of in the mix on this as well. So, I think our area is really starting to see the benefits of, this nearshore type of fishery because our lane snapper are coming in a lot more shallower. We had an amazing kingfish run this year. Spanish mackerel are running bigger than they've ever been. It's been really good. We're starting to actually see, Rick, a bunch of smaller yellowtail snapper.
Good.
We've never really had in our area, at least in numbers. And they're tiny, they're undersized, but, it's working, and I always talk about that, about you've certainly seen it in your time, where, you have peaks and valleys of, your relative ecosystem. And we're at a peak. I really believe that, red tide aside, I just think our fishing's fantastic. I mean, it's definitely different than what it's been in years past, but it's definitely on the upswing. I think I'm talking almost like a broken record week to week about how good our fishery is, but it really is. I mean, we've really had an amazing couple-year run here down on 10,000 Islands, and I don't see it changing. I really don't. It's everything seems to be in play on a given day. You can almost have your choice of what you want to target. So that's a nice luxury to have. So
Steve,
pretty good.
We so often tend to think of ourselves as being in control and we control how the fishery is and that kind of stuff. And in reality, nothing could be further from the truth. I mean, we had two fish that come to mind in Jacksonville for the last few years have been Almaco jacks and blackfin tuna. Okay. Now we haven't done anything special to manage Almaco jacks or blackfin tuna, but for whatever reason, for the last couple of years, we've been deluged with them. So, yes, we need good management. We need better management than we've got right now. But we also kind of need to understand that sometimes we just have to, we have an upcycle and we just have to be thankful for it.
Yeah, and that's how I feel, and you do this long enough and you know better than anyone, Rick, like you're going to see the peaks and valleys of your area and throughout the state. And, just talking with other captains throughout, fellow Florida Sportsman captains, you kind of have an idea of what they're going through in their region. And, it's, you hear both sides of it, and, sadly we get a little spoiled. I'm not going to lie. We've seen the great, we've seen the bad, and but boy, our bad's not all that bad.
Yeah.
And we certainly could do a better job of managing our fishery. I think you and I are on the same page of that. But the reality is, it's not all that bad either. We're still catching fish throughout all this, so it's pretty good. You
haven't heard any rumors of me moving somewhere else, have you? Because that ain't gonna happen.
Yeah, well, that's it. I always look at that. I got some family up in North Carolina, and I always thought, is that my next, I got one more move in me, left in me in my life. And I said, every time I leave Florida to go somewhere else to visit, whether it be a trade show or, business or whatever I've got to do, or just, visiting family, when I come back, I said, gosh, I'm really blessed to live where I live.
Amen.
I can't see myself, right? I mean, there's some, I don't know where else we would go. I don't know if we could be happy as sportsmen leaving Florida.
I think there's only one place they call us one of their own, Steve, and that's right here where we are.
Yeah, it's it. I don't think anybody wants us, to be honest.
That's for darn sure. Cap, we appreciate it so much each and every week. We look forward to your report. So you have a great New Year's, and we'll talk with you next year. Next year, yeah. As a matter of fact, it will be next year.
Yeah.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank goodness. All right, take care, Rick.
Take care, buddy. Our thanks to Steve Dahl for a great 10,000 Islands report. Now, let's move into Southwest Florida. I got a funny feeling there's a few snowbirds hanging out there. Is the charter boat a little busy, Captain Greg Stamper?
Well, Rick, I'm on the high end of the busy side right now. I've been passing out a few trips here and there to anybody that I know that can catch fish for people I can't take out. And I don't know. Probably next time I talk to you, that'll be my first day to be available if somebody wants to hit up and the snook stamp and go out there and catch some fish.
Good deal. That's the only thing better than good fishing is good fishing business. Tell me how your fishing.
Right.
Tell me how your fishing's been, Greg.
So we've had this has been Rick. I'm sure everybody's talking. It's been a really weird early winter for us. I mean, it's been like a back-to-back kind of cold front thing, where every 4 or 5 days, just as we get to that perfect, it's going to be awesome and warm, it dips back down. And the fronts we've had have been considerably cool. So with that said, I didn't even think I would be talking about this early in the year, but I did switch into more of my winter pattern. Let's go after things like sheepshead, trout, pompano, et cetera, all those cold weather fish. And that's basically what we did in the back bays this week.
Okay. Now, let me ask you a question. When you're fishing winter, you mentioned your wintertime pattern. Do you slow things down?
I do slow things down, but I start kind of with a pattern. So if I'm going to go and fish the drop-offs in the deeper areas for things like our pompano, sometimes the trout will be hanging on these edges. I'll have somebody working it a little quicker with a piece of shrimp, somebody working it a little bit slower, a little bit lower with maybe a little bigger piece of shrimp, and then sometimes I'll do a free line shrimp that's just slowly moving through the water column on the current if we're sitting down on an anchor or on my power pole. And you can kind of figure out the pattern after a few fish based on who's catching what. They don't know I'm experimenting with them when I'm trying to figure out what happened because the temperature dropped 5, 6, 7 degrees overnight. But that's how I start to key in on what's going to work for each day.
Gotcha. How is your water temperature?
It's cold, Rick. I'm using my dip net a lot. I don't really want to touch the water too often. I'm a Floridian, and you know how I feel about this cold stuff. I don't appreciate it, but when it's 52 degrees and I'm dressed like I'm going to drive a snowmobile somewhere, and my clients show up in shorts, I got to kind of tough it out.
Yeah, I understand. But to me, our water temperature, and I wish I kept better detailed notes than I do, our water temperature this year at the first of the year is 7 or 8 degrees colder than it was this time last year.
Yeah, and you get the Gulf Stream to help you out.
Yeah.
So over here, we don't get that. We don't get that lucky piece of the equation that can keep things a little bit warmer, like those boys down there in the Keys and on the Miami area. So offshore, I can tell you, was very good for the guys that did go out. They had a few days that were, some of them were a little bumpy. It was the same, pretty much the same stuff that they had last week. A lot of snappers, not crazy size. I don't know, 1.5 to 3.5 pounds is about the average for the mangroves. The lane snappers, though, Rick, have definitely shown back up full speed. These fish are being caught as shallow as 50, 60 feet, which for us is not, that's pretty good. That means you don't have to go that far. And there were 2 boats that I know of. They were both private that did the long haul this week, and they ran out that far. They went 180 feet in my neck of the woods, and that's a long way, okay? I'm talking these guys Well, I don't know how many miles they ran. Depends on which direction. But I guarantee they blew $2,000 in fuel.
Oh.
But they caught wahoo. Oh, yeah, easy. They caught wahoo. They caught tunas. There were sailfish that showed up again this week. And they got into a lot of other like things that you would expect to see out there. Some of those were like kingfish and stuff. But most of that has been not near shore, but we'll say 45 feet-ish out.
Mm-hmm. Now, they're not the ones catching wahoo and tuna. When you talk 45 feet,
45, 50 feet.
yeah.
No. I'm talking about the guys who are going way off.
Right.
We're talking 160 to 180 feet. That's the starting range.
Yeah.
So they're blowing out there a long way. They got the boats that can do it. We're talking about quads, 350s plus four of them just bombing out there. And they got it done. It was really nice to see. That's just not for me this time of year. There's so many equations and factors that go into it. You really have to pick that right day.
You sure do.
I'll tell you to finish it off, the nearshore guys, we still had a little pick here and there of this red tide. It's not killing fish that I've not seen any. Black drum, for example, would be one of the things I would normally see near shore. That kind of, I don't know why, Rick, but they get affected quickly, and you'll see them dying. I'm not seeing any of that. I'm really not seeing any more dead fish in my neck of the woods, but I am when boats are running around close to us or near us or in front of me. I am still giving a little bit of that little tickle in the throat. So I know there's just a dash in there, but this cold weather is definitely suppressing it.
Thank God for that. Hey, that's a great report. I'm so glad the red tide did not develop into a problem for you guys this year. I think it's going to be cool enough now to where you won't have to deal with it. Greg, that's fantastic. Now, you be careful running doubles like you're doing too many days in a row, Cap. Don't get too tired. You got some time off coming, all right?
I will. January 2nd, that's my first one.
Gotcha. Thank you, buddy. We appreciate it.
Take it easy, Rick.
Take care. Bye-bye. Our thanks to Greg Stamper from Snook Stamp Charters for a great Southwest report. Now let's move up the West Coast a little bit and check in with our buddy Ray Markham. How we doing, Cap?
Awesome. Well, the Christmas is done. The leftovers are gone, and I'm preparing for the new year.
I understand. Okay. How was Christmas?
Christmas was great. Spent it with family, which is always fun.
Yeah, I should say so. Have you gotten out to fish at all this week?
Just a couple times. I mean, it was kind of tough with friends and family and that kind of thing around, but we managed to squeak it in a little bit. When I was down south, around Cape Coral, I did do a little bass fishing, caught a few bass in some of those lakes that are down in Cape Coral. So they're still healthy and still hitting, and I left them all for the next time. So, everything else up here inshore has been pretty good. Once this breeze and cold and everything kind of cleared out, bunch of the guys are doing really well with speckled trout. They seem to be schooling up pretty well, and it's been pretty easy for guys that are fishing just along the coastal Gulf. They're catching a lot of bluefish and they're catching a lot of Spanish mackerel, believe it or not.
Excellent.
The nearshore bite's been excellent for hogfish, starting anywhere from about 30 feet and beyond. They've done some really good numbers on hogfish just in the last couple of weeks. So that's been real steady. Once they get out beyond about 50 feet or so, then you're starting to do pretty well with yellowtail snapper and mangrove snapper. And, of course, gag grouper have been just chewing like crazy up inside Tampa Bay and all the way out the ship channel is about as far as you care to go. So that's been the real deal, since everybody understands that the end of the season comes up at midnight this coming Thursday. So Friday it's closed as of midnight 01. So they're trying to get it all in, and I guess anybody's supposed to be back to work probably playing hooky.
Yeah.
So,
I think more people every year, Ray, take the week off between Christmas and New Year's. It's hard to find anybody working this time of year. That's for sure.
Yeah. Whether they're actually supposed to be working or not, they're usually not. They're just too everything is kind of geared towards next year, the end of the month, and the holidays, and guys that are getting out there. I mean, they're even catching some kingfish right now too. And I'm only guessing. I haven't been told this, but I'm only guessing they're catching it on a lot of the high relief offshore in fairly deep water, deep wrecks where it'll hold a lot of bait and maybe a little bit warmer water temperatures too. So water temperature has been running at about 60 degrees in inshore and nearshore water. So that's a little chilly for kingfish. They like it up closer to 70 if they can get it. So
yeah,
I'm guessing that's probably what's behind them.
You can usually count on them leaving once it drops below 70. They may take them a little while to leave, but they don't tolerate that very well. You're absolutely right.
You know, something else is that a few guys that I spoke with that are really heading out into the blue water stuff, middle grounds and whatnot, they say they've been catching a few blackfin tuna, and they expect it to get even better in January, February, March. So, you know, a little bit of everything around. Just depends on where you want to go and how you want to do it. You just got to be real mindful of the weather with this, with each front that comes in. So that's going to be our next one coming in probably late Wednesday, Thursday, something like that.
Yeah. I don't know what the reasoning is behind it, Ray, but I can tell you beyond a shadow of a doubt that all around the state we have had a boom season for blackfin tuna. There's so many now, and it's just crazy. I took my boat the other day to an area, and I've got a secret weapon, Rapala CD14, that I pull for them, and everyone we bring to the boat, I'm like, all right, who's taking this tuna home? This is your tuna. You want him? If you don't want him, you know, if we kill him, you're going to take him. And once everybody has one to take home, I don't put that plug back out. I mean, it's gotten crazy here. I'm listening to boats that are bringing home 25 or 30 head of 12 to 20 pound blackfin tuna. I'm just not doing that.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's the guys that I know that are taking wasabi out on the boat with them. I know what they're doing.
Yep.
Like,
Yep. But no, I will definitely chow down on some sashimi while we're out there. But I don't freeze much tuna. I don't know any of my guys that freeze much tuna, and so therefore let's take what we're going to throw on the grill for the next 2 nights, and then we're done. Well, Ray, that's good.
Well,
Go ahead.
I just want to say one more thing. Since I know you do spend a little bit of time down in Stewart and probably hang out with my buddy over there, Mark Nichols with DOA Lures. I understand that he just got a Traeger grill.
Yeah.
And so if you get some excess fish, you might want to just kind of drop by with some pellets, you know, wood pellets, and just kind of prod him into smoking some fish.
Now, let me tell you something. Smoked blackfin tuna is good now, Ray. Good. I'm telling you, Ray. It is good stuff. Mm-hmm. Yep. That's
not bad smoked fish yet, to tell you the truth.
No, I've had both smoked blackfin and smoked wahoo, and they're both very good.
Well, I had smoked mullet over the holiday, so I'm good. I'm like, I can't wait till the next one, which hopefully will be sooner than later. But that's on the agenda.
Gotcha. All right, buddy. Listen, we really appreciate it. How's your bait situation over there? Are guys able to get live bait, or is everything with lures?
It's it's mostly lures now, but if the guys are willing to get out around the Skyway Bridge, they're still finding some scale sardines. If they get just off the beaches, they're going to have to look for it, but typically there's some schools of pinfish that are probably in anywhere from 14 to 25 feet of water. You just got to pay attention to the graph and look at it. And those guys that are hitting those schools of pinfish, they are just like getting the mother lode. I mean, they're blacking out a well with pinfish, and it is game on for sure when they're getting out there with with grouper and big mangrove snapper. I mean, they'll take some of the smaller pinfish, like little 3-inch pinfish, and they'll get some nice mangoes out there up to about 5 or 6 pounds. So it's all good. I mean, if I was a guy, I wouldn't go anywhere inshore or offshore without live shrimp. So,
Yeah,
I mean, they're just that good. And hogfish, they don't seem to refuse it. They let everybody else kind of pick over everything first. And then once, the crowd kind of clears a little bit, they're a little timid and they get back in and start chewing with the rest of them. So that's the best deal, live shrimp for them. So
Got it. Thank you, Ray. We appreciate it so much.
yeah, Ricky, we'll catch you later, and Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year to you, too. It's going to be a great 2021. We'll talk with you next week. Our thanks to Ray Markham for a great West Central report. Now, let's scoot on up the coast into the Big Bend. I know where Homosassa is, and I know who the mayor is. And we're going to talk to him right now, Captain William Toney. William, how are you?
I'm doing good. I'm right here downtown Homosassa. We're kind of hustling and bustling. There's a lot of folks here between Christmas and New Year's. So, the golf carts are going around. There's a couple people out here in the parking lot cleaning out their boats from a good day of grouper fishing.
A lot being 12 people. That would be a lot of people.
Well, there's a baker's dozen.
I got you. How's the grouper fishing been?
It's been good. We've had a lot of high winds. Of course, this had a pretty severe front come through. In fact, today around Hell's Gate on the Homosassa River, our water temperature was 57.4. So that's putting the Gulf out there about 55, 56. But those traveling out to about 20 to 25 feet have been getting limits of gags still. It's still a good bite. Live pinfish has been the best bait, and you still got a few more days to get with it before it all ends.
I got a question for you.
Yeah, my down parka.
Right, I got a question for you. That down parka you were talking about wearing earlier, did it get more use all of last winter, or has it already gotten more use this winter?
It has had more use this winter. Last winter,
we ain't even to winter yet.
We are not. This has been a really cold year. We've had 5 frosts here on the Nature Coast for sure, all the way down to Hernando Beach. In fact, yesterday morning, I had ice in my boat till almost 10 a.m., and I didn't leave the dock till 9. I took the stupid idea of taking a garden hose and thinking I could de-ice my boat. All it did was make the ice thicker. So, not being used to that type of weather. Last year was very mild. This year was really good. But you know what is one of the craziest things I saw? Yesterday, as cold as it was, in that 57, 56 degree water temperature midway out the Homosassa River, we caught 7 snook.
How about that? That's excellent.
Yep. And the thing was, they were biting, and I went all the way up to the spring to the headwaters of Homosassa, and of course they bite pretty good up there. That water's always 72 degrees. But, the thing is, here on the Nature Coast and up and down the Big Bend, anglers need to be aware that, they need to scale back and be more patient. It's not like we fished in the fall or summer or even in the spring. The fish are very concentrated. Setting in an area and being patient, letting warm up. And what I would say, you can never beat a southern facing sun. So the southern facing sun beating down on a northern bank will warm that water and create a good bite like we did today. Boats all around us. We sat there and limited out with our 2 angler limit of trout right there in front of everybody. And it was just fishing it low and slow. And the fish were all together in one little bunch. It took a little bit to get them, but we got it done.
If I could put together one slogan to pound in people's heads when it comes to wintertime fishing in shallow water, it would be low and slow.
Low and slow. Fish are lethargic. Timing is a little bit to do with it. Once that sun gets up, I always tell my anglers, I said, if we find a place where we feel warm, that's where the fish are going to be. You got high tree lines here on the Big Bend blocking a lot of our northeast winds, and you find a cove with that high sun and between 11 and 2 o'clock beating down on that northern shoreline. Even if it's a dark bottom, mud, the stuff you would never fish during the summer, those fish will get to that dark bottom because it heats up quicker, and it will create a bite.
That's excellent advice. Excellent advice. All right, everything else going okay? You got any more for me?
That's it, man. I say everything. I just want to tell everybody Happy New Year's and look forward to talking to you next year, Rick, and everything. And as far as fishing here in the Big Bend area has been good. Getting those grouper, we got till, I believe it's Thursday is the last day, and it looks like the weather's going to be good. Looking at 70-degree temperatures, where that, no matter what you do, if it says 70 or even 75, still bring that down parka because 50, 60-degree water temperature is pretty tough early in the morning on that long run out.
Hey, I got one more thing to tell you. I don't want you to think you had any. I don't want you to think you had any influence on my grandkids. But guess what? Young Parker's favorite Christmas present was his prescription.
Going scalloping.
No, his prescription mask.
There you go.
Yep.
Well, that's cool. Well, Rick, we got to get together and go again this year, and that way, he's going to be top scalloper. I guarantee it.
I don't doubt it a bit. Cap, I appreciate it so much. We'll talk with you next year.
All right. You too, Rick. Happy New Year's, everybody.
Thank you, William. Our thanks to William Toney for a great Homosassa report. Now let's swing up into the Northwest section and talk with the man himself from KC Sport Fishing, Captain Kevin Lanier. Kevin, how are you?
Captain Rick, I'm doing just fine. How about yourself?
Good, but I got a question for you.
Okay.
So we're at the end of December, so we're what? 1/3 of the way through wintertime, would you say? December, January, February?
Well, it depends on how technical you want to get, because December 21st is the first day of winter. So
okay, so
I think we're probably
so we're probably 1/5 of the way through this winter, right?
Yes, 1/5 and probably maybe 1/3 through cold weather type thing. I'll give you that.
Have you already fished in your cold weather gear more this year than you did all last year?
Oh, absolutely. I don't even think I got my cold weather gear out last year.
I feel the same way, Cam.
Hey, you know what I've been looking for, though?
What's that?
I've been looking for a pickaxe in case I have to chip through the ice to fish.
Just when we thought global warming was here and we'd never be cold again, I'm about to freeze my butt off.
Oh, I agree with you. The same people are talking about global warming of the people counting red snapper.
Yeah, that's right. Thanks a lot. That makes me feel a lot more confident. Give me.
You should. It's the government.
Yeah. Give me a fishing report. Tell me what's happening out there.
Well, we've had a lot of cold days up here, so the inshore fishery's pretty much been non-existent. Our guys getting out and catching a few fish here and there. Being the holiday week, only a few guys have ventured offshore, but the guys that have gotten offshore have done really well with some grouper coming in, vermilion snapper. Good day on the water. But like I said, with cold weather, kind of put a damper on the near shore stuff. But looks like we're going to have today was supposed to be a warmer day tomorrow, and then we get into some nasty weather through the change of the year. So, kind of hit and miss. I had somebody call me today about a charter, and I said, the biggest problem right now is getting out there. I said, if we can get out there, we catch fish. But your days, it's like hit or miss. You can't really plan ahead very far at all. And with the holidays and stuff like that, it's been tough all the way around.
Gotcha. Yeah, I understand that. Now, your grouper season ends when? Thursday, right?
Yep. 31st at midnight is the last we can keep the grazing gags. And then we have to wait on the other side of the Cape to open in April. So that will be our next opportunity.
All right. Compare this grouper season with last year.
Oh, much better, but it, kind of hard to say. But yes, I would say it was much better. Our quality was there more so than the quantity, but we still caught a lot of grouper. We caught a lot of nice grouper. I would say we had at least a dozen over 20 pounds. So, and then we had our behemoth, our 46 pounder, right there in July. So that was a great, And we started the year off really well too with grouper. Before it shut down, we were able to get out and get a few. So over the last 12 months, I would say it's about our best grouper season we've ever had.
Oh, that's fantastic, because it's been, as you know, brutally horrible on the East Coast. We don't know why, but it is what it is. But that's good news to hear indeed. So your next, let's see, now what happens for you for the next 4 months or so? Will you be strictly vermilion fishing?
We'll be vermilion fishing, but we're also getting our new flats boat ready to go, and we're going to start running inshore trips probably by the middle to the end of this month. So once we've got all the bugs out of the new one and doing that, so we'll be concentrating a lot on that. And those people that want to venture offshore, we can, on a good day, we can get out there and get pretty close to a boat limit of vermilion.
Oh, that's wonderful. Yeah, that's wonderful. Now, you've got mangroves, too, that you can fish for, right?
We do. We don't see a lot of those in the wintertime, but we do have them. And so we can catch a few of those as well.
Gotcha. That's an excellent report. Thank you so much, Cap. Best of New Year's to you, and we'll talk with you next week if that's okay.
That's great, Captain Rick. Best of hope everyone out there has a great New Year's, and we'll talk to you in 2021, and hopefully it's going to be better.
It is. No, they know hopefully, Cap. It's going to be better because we're going to make it better. Thank you, Kevin.
Absolutely.
We appreciate it. Captain Kevin Lanier. All right, our thanks to Captain Kevin Lanier with KC Sport Fishing for a great report. Well, can't get out of Florida till we go out through the Panhandle. Let's see what Captain Tyler Massey's up to. Cap, how we doing?
We're doing good, Rick. How are y'all?
We're doing fine. Hey, I got a question for you. We had Captain Ray Rocher as a guest with us last week from Miami. He probably knows as much about dolphin and wahoo as anybody in Florida does. He sat on the advisory panel for the South Atlantic Council, and sounds like we're going to have a little cutback with mahi. Would you prefer to see mahi cut back to 5 per person and say maybe 30 a boat if you've got a 6-passenger boat? Or would you prefer to see a closed season where when it's open season you can harvest all you want, but then we got to go through a 4-month closure at somewhere during the year?
No, I think the 5 per person is very acceptable. I'm kind of the more, I like to be able to catch something more days,
right.
But less quantity.
Right.
Up here when we're on our charters and fishing, within 30 miles of the beach here, it's not something that we ever really get on like a hot and heavy bite. Usually, it's more of the random 1s and 2s, and maybe you get on a little weed patch and catch 5. That's not when we're trolling, but just typically when we're fishing. So I'd rather be able to keep them whenever we catch one. But yeah, I think 5 is plenty.
I do too.
Some days you get on a weed line or a rip and you can just fill the boat full of them. That would give us a good reason to say, hey guys, we got our limit. Let's move on to catch something else. A lot of times they're smaller fish when it's that many of them. But yeah, I definitely would agree to, having a limit where you don't keep quite as many, but keep them all the time.
Tyler, I've always believed, and when I ran charters for many years, I always felt like you can overdo it. You can take people that go fishing with you and they're not used to it, and after about 10 or 15 fish, a rod goes off and all of them are looking at each other, go, no, you get it. No, I got the last one. You get it. No, I don't want it. You get it. I think in a lot of cases, if we make a bigger deal out of each fish, does that make sense? I think in some cases.
Oh yeah, no.
I think in some cases less is more. You catch a nice.
Oh yeah, no, definitely.
Yeah, you catch a nice fish. You take pictures of him. Everybody poses with him, all that stuff. You put him in the box. Everybody's excited. Then you pull back to the weed line and you get another 1 or 2, and then some of the best charters I ever had, I got to tell you, were not the days that we caught the most fish, but they were the days that we made the most out of every fish. Does that make sense?
Definitely. Yeah, that's the way, I have that same kind of mindset. There's definitely some guys in the area that are, meat hunters, and they go and try to fill the boat up with every trip. And I mean, you definitely got to fill your customers out. If you catch the first red snapper and it's 15 inches and they're high-fiving, we're taking pictures of every fish. Every fish is a great one that day.
Mm-hmm.
You got to see what your customers, what their expectations are, and go from there. If a customer definitely wants to, take home the most fish that they can, we'll definitely try our best to do that. But, I'm more with you. You determine a lot of times how they react to each fish and how many, you have to catch to have a good trip.
You're right. Tell me how your fishing's been the last week or so.
Well, fishing's been pretty good. We did have some wind a couple of days, around Christmas, before Christmas or so. But the inshore bite has still been pretty consistent with our trout in the canals and the deeper parts of the bayous. And then also we're catching sheephead, redfish, and black drums on the bridges, fishing right up against the pilings. So that's been pretty productive. And then there's been a few schools of redfish still hanging around, like we talked about a few weeks ago, the big schools on the surface. So inshore's been pretty good. Just a big variety of stuff to catch, and a lot of people have been sticking to that. Offshore, we did have a few guys get out, catch a few scamp groupers, a few gags, a few mingos, but nothing too red hot. But just a pretty steady bite. Just nothing to write home about.
Mm-hmm. All right, that'll work. That's good. All right. Well, let's see. When will your trolling start back again?
Probably not until the springtime, really. Once it warms back up and we get some bait back in the area and the fish move closer to the beach. Like, we're in an area, where a lot of the fish will move east or west and go south, both directions this time of year. They're further offshore. So, there will be some good wahoo fishing throughout the wintertime. If you're dedicated enough to go try and troll our edge or further out in a little bit deeper water, you can definitely catch some wahoo.
Mm-hmm.
The more of them, the easier way to catch them is to head west and fish around oil rigs.
Mm-hmm.
But, out of here, it's a long trip. A lot of guys will go stay in Venice, Louisiana, and fish out of there for a few days. And the wahoo fishing on the oil rigs can be just absolutely amazing, where you're catching 10, 15, 50-pound wahoo a day type thing. So that's a really cool trip if people make it over there, but it's kind of hard to do on a day trip out of Pensacola.
Yeah, I'd say it is. Cap, we appreciate it. That's a great trip. Well, keep it up with the bottom fishing and let us know what's happening next week, if you will.
I'll be here.
All right. Thanks, Captain Tyler, and Happy New Year to you and your family.
You too, Rick.
Well, that puts a wrap on our little trip around the state tonight. Gosh, it was a lot of fun. There were a lot of different reports. Everybody seemed to agree on a few things. First off, we are colder this winter. All of us have fished in more cold weather gear this year than we did all of last winter. But the cold weather is bringing some positive changes. Up in the northeast section, the sea bass are moving in, and that's really good news for the boats that don't want to go all the way out to the deep water. The wahoo are biting pretty good. The trolling has not been red hot. Now, you get down toward the south, and that's where sailfish take over, get into John Earhart's territory. Some boats catching up to 10 per day one day, but then only 1 or 2 the next. That's common for the end of December. That fishing will be more consistent next month. Real happy to hear about the bottom fishing down in South Florida from Captain Alan Sherman. He said that they're fishing for mangrove snapper and mutton snapper has been tremendous, and yellowtails. How about Nick Stancic? 8 swordfish in a day and a 300, and I believe it was 353 to top it off, and that fish was a pumpkin. Now, what we mean by a pumpkin is he gets an orange meat to him because of his diet. That's the diet that fish prefers. It gives him an excellent flavor. Great sword fishing going on down in the Keys. Steve Dahl said his fishing just can't get any better over in 10,000 Islands. They are having an upswing on so many of their fish. Greg Stamper says the same thing, but slow it down. Fish a little deeper all the way up through West Central. The further north you get, the slower you've got to fish. It was a better grouper season up in the Northwest, talking with Captain Kevin Lanier, and we're certainly glad to see grouper making a comeback in the Gulf Coast. I wish it would happen on the East Coast. Out in the Panhandle, the trolling's over. Put the outriggers away. It's going to be bottom fishing now until April, but there's some good fish to be caught on the deeper waters out in the Panhandle. Hey, it's been a fun trip around the state. I hope you enjoyed it. And listen to me now. If you did, please subscribe to our podcast and please rate us and let us know how you like it. Let us know how you can improve it. And if you have a question for any area of the state of Florida, just send it to us on Florida Sportsman Facebook page. We'll make sure we ask the Action Spotter for a direct answer as to what you need to know about and get you the message on our next podcast. We want to thank Yamaha, especially Tournament Master Chum, our sponsors we couldn't live without, Nosara Paradise Fishing, your dream vacation, and of course, Young Boats. You want to find us in flat spay and offshore hybrids? You need to check out youngboats.com. I'm Captain Rick Riles with my flannels on. It's going to be a few more days till we start 2021. I'm ready for it. We'll talk to you next year.